Where's Tan Kiat?
Mr. Chairman, I will now elaborate on the Ministry's plans on how we are transforming the construction industry to create more jobs and opportunities for firms and the local workforce. Mr. Henry Kwek and Mr. Xie Yaoquan spoke about the Construction Industry Transformation Map, or ITM. The ITM was launched in 2017 to rally the construction sector around the shared goal of developing future-ready capabilities that will transform our built environment. We have made steady progress. We have greened over 40% of our buildings. This has involved making use of sustainable technologies and designs, such as more energy-efficient systems to cool and ventilate our buildings. The overall energy use intensity of our buildings has improved by 10% over the past decade. At the worksite, we have seen a 7% improvement in productivity since 2017. This is driven by the adoption of innovative building approaches like design for manufacturing and assembly, or DFMA for short, and digital technologies like the integrated digital delivery, or IDD. DFMA allows building components to be fabricated off-site in automated facilities and subsequently assembled on-site. This raises productivity, improves workmanship, and reduces these amenities to residents near construction sites. DFMA adoption has doubled over the last 3 years, from 19% in 2017 to 39% in 2020. And IDD connects the various parts of the building life cycle together via a digital spine. This facilitates coordination among project stakeholders, which improves accuracy of design and planning and reduces abortive work downstream. We have built up IDD competencies in more than 150 firms through 48 demonstration projects over the last 3 years. And a good example is Technics Air Conditioning and Engineering Private Limited, a SME specializing in the installation of mechanical services. When I spoke to them earlier, they shared they have tapped on BCA's Productivity Innovation Project, or PIP scheme. They have switched over to a prefabricated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, or MEP system. Technics shared with me that on-site works involving the installation of pipes and ducts took about 2 to 3 weeks in the past. Time was needed to erect the scaffolding, perform welding and installation works, and conduct regular tests on the installation. Today, with the use of prefabricated vertical riser modules, such work are done well within a single day on-site. Technics has also leveraged the Building Information Modeling, or BIM, and automation through its use of computer numerical control, or CMC, machines to raise productivity. Cutting instructions to the machines can be automatically generated from 3D building models, allowing changes to be made quickly and accurately. What used to take 1.5 hours using manual templates can be done in just 15 minutes, and the precision is much better than previously. Furthermore, Technics shared with me that they have been able to remotely coordinate with other firms and reduce the number of workers required on-site, making it easier to adhere to safe management measures, especially during this period. Technics' experience is not unique. Without these earlier investments, many of our firms would have been more severely disrupted during the challenging COVID-19 period. As many members, like Mr. Henry Kwek, Mr. Xie Yaoquan, Ms. Polly San, have pointed out, although we have made good progress, but we need to pick up the pace of transformation. We are making a greater whole-of-nation push on environmental sustainability with the Singapore Green Plan 2030. The built environment sector plays an important role in achieving our vision of a greener and more sustainable Singapore. There is also greater urgency to strengthen the resilience of our sector, particularly in reducing the reliance on foreign workers. In the near term, we expect our foreign manpower situation to remain in flux, while COVID-19 travel restrictions are still in place. To elevate the current labour shortage in the construction industry, we are working closely with the Ministry of Manpower and the Ministry of Health to progressively increase the number of incoming workers, but in a safe way to minimize the risk of COVID-19 transmission in our dorms and into our community. At the same time, we want to ensure that migrant workers who are already in Singapore can continue to work here if they choose to. We have invested significantly to keep them safe, and they are familiar with our local work culture and environment. In this respect, we are working closely with the Singapore Contractors Association Limited, or SCAL, to facilitate a change of employer for construction workers whose contracts have either expired or were terminated through the SCAL Manpower Exchange. However, even as we work closely with our firms to overcome near-term challenges, we recognize that COVID-19 has hastened the shift towards a manpower-lean construction approach, manpower-lean approach to construction, not just in Singapore, but across many other countries. Recently, a local subsidiary of a large Chinese construction firm shared with me that the Chinese construction industry is facing a labour crunch. Imagine, even in one of the world's largest labour markets. The median age of the parent company's few million workers in China was 46.5 years old. The managing director lamented to me that it was increasingly difficult to attract young people into the sector, even with competitive wages. Even few of them wanted to come and work in Singapore. Like what were you doing in Singapore? The firm is ramping up its investments in DFMA, automation, and digitalization in China so as to reduce its reliance on manpower and to build with sustainability in mind. Mr. Chairman, sir, these are long-term structural shifts confronting our built environment sector, accelerated by COVID-19. In the spirit of emerging stronger, we have to seize this window of opportunity to transform. Let me elaborate on how we plan to do so. First, we will raise standards of sustainability and productivity. Mr. Henry Kwek and Mr. Xie Yaoquan asked about the Green Building Master Plan and how we plan to curb building emissions. Over the past year, BCA and the Singapore Green Building Council have engaged over 5,000 stakeholders, ranging from developers, consultants, builders, members of public, especially our young people. There is strong support for our green building agenda and a collective desire to ramp up our efforts to combat climate change in Singapore. But green buildings make commercial sense too. Green buildings reap net savings over their life cycle, despite the higher upfront cost. For example, a large office building of over 15 stories can save around $300,000 in operating costs annually by achieving the Green Mark Platinum standard. Last year, we announced that we will raise minimum energy performance requirements for new buildings and existing buildings that undergo major retrofitting. Under these revised requirements, all new buildings will be 50% more energy efficient than the 2005 baseline. This is equivalent to our current Green Mark Platinum standard. These requirements will apply to new developments submitted for planning approval from the fourth quarter of this year. Additionally, we will update the Green Mark scheme. The scheme recognizes buildings that pursue sustainability standards beyond the minimum requirements. As Mr. Henry Kwek has pointed out, our Green Mark scheme is amongst the world's leading green building certifications and is a go-to standard for green buildings in the tropics. The Green Mark scheme already encourages the reduction of not just operational carbon, but also embodied carbon through the use of low-carbon materials and sustainable construction. Mr. Henry Quek will be so pleased to know that it already promotes the use of natural ventilation as a passive strategy to cool buildings and improve energy savings. The revised scheme will raise energy performance standards and place greater emphasis on other aspects of sustainability, such as health and well-being, and how the buildings are designed for long-term maintainability. We intend to trial these new standards from the second quarter of this year, and we will take into account industry feedback before we implement the revised scheme. BCA will provide more details in the coming months. We will also continue our efforts to green our existing stock of buildings. An important step is to enhance data transparency on building energy performance. Currently, we collect and publish the energy performance data of our commercial and institutional buildings. Going forward, we will identify all buildings in the data that we publish, beginning with commercial buildings from the second half of this year. This will allow building owners to benchmark their buildings against others at no additional cost and spur them to improve their energy efficiency. We are also exploring other ways to encourage building owners to conduct energy audits and retrofit their buildings to improve energy performance. We will continue to engage the industry and public to ensure that our plans remain relevant over time as we transition to a more sustainable, low-carbon built environment. Next, let me touch on raising productivity in our sector. We have seen good productivity outcomes from adopting DFMA and aim to make DFMA the default building method for larger projects. Under the buildability framework, projects with gross floor area of GFA of at least 5,000 square meters are required to meet minimum buildable design scores, or B scores, through the adoption of labor-efficient designs and technologies. To drive DFMA adoption, we have raised the minimum B score for large residential non-landed developments with GFA of at least 25,000 square meters from December 2019. We will raise the minimum B score for large commercial, institutional and industrial developments with GFA of at least 25,000 square meters next year, starting from April 2022. This means that eventually, around 80% of the GFA of all projects submitted for approval will be subject to the higher minimum B score. BCA will consult the industry in the coming months before firming up the enhanced standards. This move will help us achieve our target of 70% DFMA adoption by 2025. We are also working closely with the industry to step up our digitalization and IDD efforts. As mentioned by Minister Indrani, the Digitalizing Built Environment Alliance for Action, or AFA, has identified Common Data Environment (CDE) data standards as a key enabler to drive digitalization across the entire value chain. The Common Data Standards specify what information is required for a project and how it can be structured. Wide adoption of this common standard will facilitate information flow across platforms and enable seamless collaboration amongst the various supply chain partners. Ms. Polisan asked about the support we are providing to local SMEs. SMEs make up 98% of our construction firms and play a very critical role in our sector. Our firms, especially SMEs, can tap on the Construction Productivity and Capability Fund, or CPCF, for support to adopt productive technologies and develop their workforce. For example, the Productivity Innovation Project scheme helps to defray the cost of adopting DFMA and IDD technologies. Technics Air Conditioning and Engineering Private Limited, which I mentioned earlier, is a very good example. Since its launch in 2010, we have supported over 10,000 firms and dispersed close to two-thirds of the approximately $850 million they have allocated in funding. To support our firms, especially our SMEs, we will extend the CPCF by another year to March 2022. We will also continue the enhanced co-funding support of 80% under the PIP scheme. I encourage all firms to make full use of the CPCF to undertake productivity improvements. Mr. Henry Kwek talked about the difficulty in encouraging Singaporeans to join the construction industry. And Mr. Xie Yao Chuan also asked what types of new jobs in the sector that Singaporeans can look forward to. It is common to associate jobs in the construction sector with the 3 Ds: dirty, dangerous, and demanding. However, as part of its transformation effort, the industry has made strides in redesigning existing jobs and creating new and higher skilled jobs with better working environment. There are many exciting career pathways in areas such as digital delivery management and smart facilities management. Many of these job roles did not even exist a decade ago. I recently met Mr. Lee Kong Jian, a bright NTU graduate with a background in civil engineering. He's working at an integrated construction and prefabrication hub, or ICPH, operated by local contractor Soy-Built Construction Group. Kong Jian is a DFMA engineer in the ICPH. His day-to-day job or day-to-day work involves using various digital platforms to manage the prefab production and delivery of precast concrete components, optimizing the process for efficiency while maintaining quality standards for his clients. His job will not be out of place in a high-tech manufacturing factory floor. So think about it, creating good, exciting jobs for Singaporeans. And we are stepping up our efforts to attract local PMETs and more tech-savvy young Singaporeans to join the built environment sector. As at end 2020, there were about 7,500 jobs and training opportunities in the construction industry under the SG United Jobs and Skills Package. Please take a look at it. There are many exciting job roles, from, for example, digital delivery specialist, logistics supply chain planner, and environmental specialist. Exciting job roles for Singaporeans. Good jobs, high skills in demand. We are also investing in our local workforce to acquire the relevant skills in many areas, especially those that are in demand: green building, DFMA, and IDD. In September last year, we rolled out the skills framework for the built environment. The framework promotes recognition of skills development to enhance career progression opportunities. BCA is working with the various trade associations and chambers to align accreditation schemes with the various progression pathways and skill requirements for the various job roles. We will continue to build a strong talent pipeline through our iBuild SG scholarship and sponsorship program. As of January 2021, we've awarded more than 3,600 scholarships and sponsorships to local students. But we are not just only focusing on new entrants into the sector. We are taking pains and effort to upgrade our existing workforce as well. I had the privilege of speaking to Ms. Kartini, a 45-year-old lady who has been working as a 2D drafter at infrastructure consulting firm AECOM Singapore for the last 18 years. She was bubbly, passionate. With the support from a firm and her supervisor, whom I spoke to as well, Ms. Kartini enrolled in a professional conversion program, or PCP, for BIM professionals to upgrade her skill sets for 3D drafting. Today, Ms. Kartini is redeployed as a BIM modeler at AECOM. When I spoke to her, it's a palpable sense of satisfaction and pride in having achieved the skills upgrade. She shared with me that her children are very proud of her, and she was very proud of herself. She learned valuable skills from 2D to 3D modeling. As she shared that 3D modeling enabled them to troubleshoot problems early in the construction process compared to previous ways of doing things. So we are bringing new entrants in the built environment sector by taking effort to train our local workforce and existing workforce into new skills and new job roles. And urge more firms to tap on these training programs to upskill their mid-career staff to take on these roles. Through these collective efforts, we aim to train 80,000 professionals in the key transformation areas under the ITM by 2025. And we're making good progress. The government is committed to working hand-in-hand with our tripartite partners, industry associations, firms, and unions to transform the built environment sector. We've envisaged a high-tech an integrated construction ecosystem led by progressive local firms with a strong local core, poised to capture even more opportunities abroad as we transform our sector. We hope, and I personally hope, that when we come to talk about jobs in the construction sector, we are no longer associating them with the 3Ds of dirty, dangerous, and demanding, but a refreshed set of 3Ds: desirable jobs, in-demand skills, and dynamic careers, allowing us to tap on the imagination, passion, and capabilities of our firms and Singaporeans to build a much greener, vibrant, and sustainable Singapore for tomorrow. Thank you very much.